Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Got a big video today for Setup Sunday. Let's take a look at some charts here on Kraken Desktop. This video is sponsored by Kraken. Do yourself a favor and get yourself a Kraken account with a link in the description of this video. So we are cruising here on basically all accounts. The good news is price moved up a lot across the board. The bad news is it gets a little harder for entries. The easy entries and trades are pretty much over. Looking at you, Pepe, looking at you, Mog. BTC is also in a challenging spot from a trading perspective, just because it is certainly overbought on some measures. It's looking like it's in need of a pullback just in a vacuum. I don't know if we're going to get that. I wouldn't be 100x long here. That's just me. Funding is fine. OI is fine. There's really no reason to be worried about anything other than we've just gone straight up for a little while. There's not even, there's not even a chart pattern to worry about. There's literally nothing to worry about here on high time frames, on low time frames. I just don't know if I'm fully convinced that we're not going to see a little bit of a downtick throughout the week just across the board because we've had such a crazy run here. This is on the 4 hour. You had a breakout, TK recross, and now we're at 105. We're pretty close to all-time highs. ETFs have been honestly pretty tame, all things considering. We'll take a look at those. So I'm not worried about it. I think everything's fine. It's just, it wouldn't surprise me if we tried to retest something in the hundreds, I don't know, this week. I'm not seeing any compelling reason in the BTC chart why we should see continuation. You've got a lot of alts, Pepe chief among them, that is just stratospherically up there, fully complete edge to edge. Hopefully a lot of people caught this. We were talking about that one for a few weeks. And this is best case scenario for my analysis, for my setups, what I'd like to see. Multi-month consolidations and breakouts, clouds on your side, chart patterns on your side. For me, that's what I always want to see. So you can use this analysis on any time frame, any chart, no matter what it is, but that is best case scenario, certainly. And then there's quite a few coins like AVAX, Sol that are kind of in the middle here, and just eyeballing it, it's like 50-50 as far as expected. If this is the expected move, other end of the cloud, it certainly has some left to go in it. Just in the near term, we're not talking post breakout, we're not talking post BTC all-time high or anything like that. This is still a pretty rounded bottom. I still like this chart. I'm still holding AVAX. I don't think there's any, again, I don't want to sound like I'm worried about anything. It's just, what is my expectations here for a lot of this stuff is consolidation or pullback over continuation in the near term this week. The Sol versus ETH battle has been interesting because if I had to bet on it, I would have bet that Sol would hit its edge to edge first before ETH. I was in Pepe, so I'm fine. I'm covered there on the ETH front, but ETH surging, obviously. Not really much to talk about here other than, just the vanilla edge to edge trades so far. From a trading perspective, again, this is not like an ETH holder perspective or a long-term holder perspective. This is just trading. Would love to see this pull back a little bit. Would love to see this consolidate. Would love to see this chop around for a little bit. Just do nothing. Would love to see that across the board. There's no reason it needs to do that. Again, funding is fine. OI is fine. Everything's fine. There's no reason. ETF flows were negative last week for ETH, which is wild. But there's no reason ETH needs to do anything. I think the question this week is Sol Eco versus ETH Eco. Let's say Sol catches a bigger bid slightly this week than ETH. Are we going to see Sol coins catch up? Whatever the Sol ecosystem, I don't know, Rage up, whatever else meme coin is in that group relative to some of the ETH stuff that has exploded. Also ENA, again, funding sensitive in my mind. If we look at when funding exploded, it was November 10th onward. And that's when ENA took off. That is, correlation isn't causation. But if you're under the assumption that funding here is low, which we'll take a look at, and it will flip extremely positive, I think that's extremely bullish for ENA, just fundamentally. And it also has, to me, one of the biggest edge-to-edge moves left in the tank here. So I think the most difficult part for most people is just to do nothing this week for a lot of this stuff and just give it time. For Pepe, I like closing up here. For anything that looks like Pepe, I like closing up here, reassessing, and not being in a rush to get back in. That's another way people get in trouble. They're either shorting up here for some reason. They've had 3 years to short alts and they're shorting them now. Or they take big wins and they immediately try to flip it on something else for another win, poorly sized. It goes against them. So I do like taking a little bit of a breather here, generally. So that's the broad overview for the traders. If we talk to the investors here, the real people, the hodlers for BTC, again, there's nothing to worry about. You've nothing to do. You have nothing to do. All of the charts I'm about to show you, at least to me, say that we are nowhere near overheated, nowhere near oversold for the cycle, nowhere near cycle over, nowhere near any place that anyone should be concerned over the long term. No matter what you care about, moving averages, power law corridor. This is a power law. Buy, sell, or hold based on this. Looks like a buy or a hold. Looks fine. Upside is whatever the upside is, right? It doesn't even matter. It's just a number. 400,000, 600,000, whatever it is. Looks fine. No issues. 2-year moving average multiplier. Upside 300. No issues. Are we closer or farther away, right? There's plenty of room, plenty of upside potential here. Even if we don't hit it, even if you think that number is impossible, it doesn't even matter. Are we oversold or overbought here? Looks like we're about even. Nothing really to speak of here. This is going to continue to move up so long as price moves up. Plenty of room there. If we look at the cup and handle that we're now almost a year on the breakout here, no concerns, plenty of upside. Once we get above 150, 180, if we get to 200, if we get to 333K by July, that's when I'll be saying, okay, things look a little interesting. Either all the models are broken at that point, literally all of them, or we're going to get a pullback. It's pretty binary, Either we go to infinity for whatever reason at those levels, or we slow down for a long time, multi-month slowdown. Doesn't have to be a major 80% bear market. It's just going to take a significant amount of capital to get us past those levels. So again, here, what do you say? Plenty of room. No big deal. Rainbow chart. Buy, sell, or hold. Plenty of room. Whatever the numbers are the numbers, right? Whatever level you think we're going to. I think it's unlikely we stop here based on this. And, you might not even believe in most of this stuff. That's fine. This is just, do we look cheap or expensive here? That's it. 200-week moving average heat map. This is the speed at which the 200-week is moving higher. It is ice cold. We are moving at a glacial pace here, which says there's a lot of potential. There's no promises. There's no guarantees. There's a lot of potential for continuation here. And you can see how it looked in 2021. When you go up very quickly, this was a 5x in 2021, a 5x, almost a 6x in 2021. And that wasn't even from the COVID low. So when you get these sort of returns, that's when it's hard to keep going, because that's when a lot of the big money sellers come in. So far so good on the 200-week moving average heat map, Mayer multiple, fine, right? This is at like 219 plus, whatever. No big deal. Not an issue. Next chart, right? Performance since cycle low. This one I like more for the days rather than the price, but let's say we go for another 200 days, or we snap back to the 2015 to 18 cycle, or whatever. I think anybody would say, great, we'll take it, right? We're not going to hit this 2011 percentage move. Just not going to happen. We're too big at this point. But we could certainly see bullish continuation still, right? There's no problems with anything here, both on duration or magnitude or anything like that. We've seen cycles last longer and go much farther than we currently are today. Realized cap hold always. I like looking at this one just to see the age of the coins that have moved past the 6-month mark. ETFs are going to mess this up a lot. The GBTC unlock's going to mess this up a lot. On-chain data is never going to be the same going forward once the ETFs get big enough. But for now, we look okay here. We're not seeing a ton of churn on-chain. There's clearly diminishing return here on the highs. But again, I'm not really worried about this. We look fine. We're not exactly screaming where more than 80% of the chain is moving over the past year. We're not seeing that. MVRV market cap against realized value. No problems, no issues. 2.5. We max out at 6+. Plenty of time. Plenty of room for continuation. On the miners side, are the miners fat and happy? No, they're not. This is one way to measure that. 1.46. I do have some miner charts towards the end here. The name of the game this week is going to be laggards. Miners definitely in that category. Their charts starting to look tradable. Whether or not we'll actually see anything there, I don't know, but they're looking tradable for sure. Can't argue that. But there's no warning signs here on Puel. Hash ribbons, 30-60 day moving average crossover of hash rate. Give you a buy signal back here. And here we are at 105, right? Great signal. Definitely worth coming back to over again. Just like the 1050 moving average crossed about that time for price. M2 still skyrocketing. I don't care if it's 70 days, 80 days, 100 days. I don't care if Bitcoin's leading. I don't care. We're still going higher on M2. Fine, right? Whatever. What is there to argue about here? If M2 was going from 100 trillion to 50 trillion, then I'd say, yeah, it's probably time to be careful here for sure. But we're not seeing that. M2 is rising. Bitcoin's rising. To what degree and percentage? I don't care. It's not even worth thinking about. What does it even matter? ETF flows last week. For the past couple of weeks, they've actually been falling. We are seeing a lot of ARB coming in for the basis trade, longing spot, shorting the future. But compared to what we saw in Q4 last year, can't really compare. And we've seen some strong flows, definitely. But all in all, we're not seeing some crazy days. If we're getting like 2 billion a day, 5 billion a day, I think at cycle peak, my guess, we're going to see like 5 to 10 billion a day. Like it's going to get insane. Nowhere near that. This is very reminiscent of gold, where gold towards the breakout, like the best prices, you didn't see inflows at all from retail. You didn't really see anything going on there. Price kept moving. That was all central bank buying. Then towards the end of the gold rally, you of course get retail, right? When everybody's talking about it and it's too late. Google Trends, same thing. Bitcoin on Google Trends is nothing right now, right? Retail isn't really talking about this. Funding is another way to look at that. Open interest is another way to look at that. You're not seeing any euphoria signs on any metric that historically has shown that. ETF flows last week from CoinFlows, negative. So, no one cares about ETH, regardless of the 70% move or whatever it was over the past week. This is funding. Funding finally flipped positive for the first time in a week or two. And it is positive and is low. You can see how high it gets when craziness ensues. Last quarter, beginning of last year, again, we're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near seeing some crescendo blow off insanity in funding. ETH, same way. Funding for ETH is positive. It is slowly rising. It is nowhere near anything we've seen when ETH actually takes off. So from a medium to long-term view, totally fine. No issues here whatsoever. If you look at the cloud again, bullish TK cross, bullish cloud. We're certainly stretched away from the cloud. We're stretched away from the Kijun. Kijun's going to keep moving up slowly. Where is the exact level of a pullback? Maybe it's 100. Maybe it's between 94 and 100. I don't know, right? There's a massive possibility there. It just wouldn't surprise me if we try to pull back a little bit. It's just we're a little early on takeoff. Not impossible. But if we start to see flows pick up, certainly we'll just keep going. If the China whatever deal is good, maybe that's enough to move markets for BTC. I don't know. But plenty of upside here. This quarter, 120, 150 range is the expectation. And we're not there yet. We got room. We also saw the CoT data, commitment of traders data from futures flip more bullish on commercials. So there's large spec, small spec, and commercials. Commercials are miners. Commercials are what is pictured here. You want miners on your side. If we backtest this, commercials being net bearish or negative is bearish for price. It's that simple. You don't always see some mega crazy move, but you want commercials on your side if you are long, and commercials right now are the longest they've ever been. When this starts to unwind, when this starts to decline significantly, then you can expect the rally to slow down, but just add this to the list. Funding, OI, ETF flows, all the charts I showed in the beginning here with the long-term levels looking fine. We look great for continuation. We look great for an all-time high retest here shortly. On the alt side, again, from a trading perspective, not long-term, not fundamental, none of that stuff. ENA is still one of the best setups left that's remaining, just because it had that triple bottom. It just got into the cloud a couple days ago, and it has plenty of room. This is easily one of the largest mean reversion setups left out there. So I really like that, and I really like the funding thesis along with that. CAS here is another weird one, Bitcoin beta, where unusually it is above the cloud. It also has that scoop-de-whoop inverted head and shoulders stuff going for it. So not something I've traded ever, or may probably won't, but that's an option of things to think about. If you're looking for something, now it's up 7% today. Okay, maybe not today, but when you're getting these ping pong movements in alts, this is up today. Almost everything's red on my list here. Maybe this is one to think about. And on the Sol ecosystem idea this week, Ray Jupp down here, bottom of the cloud. clearly inverted head and shoulders, very clear edge-to-edge setup. Another idea to think about. For Sol, you probably want ETH to settle down a little bit. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. I don't think there's a trade for ETH here. I don't think there's a setup here for ETH. Like I said, consolidation or down would be preferable here. Not because I'm sidelined, not because I don't own any ETH. I could care less. Just from a setup perspective, that would make a little bit more sense to me. OP is another one. ETH beta, fresh edge-to-edge entry. Clearly some sort of triple bottom going on there. And we could probably add Lido to that list, I'd imagine. Similar spot. Yeah, up a lot already, but does have something left in the tank, maybe something to continue to watch. There are also a few BTC pairs. Sol BTC is probably my favorite chart outside of ENA right now. Very clear bottom, multi-month inverted head and shoulders, edge to edge triggered a couple days ago. This looks great, looks phenomenal. Sol BTC has traded extremely technically for a few years now, so I fully expect this to, at some point, reach for 0020 up there. And these are the charts that I like to see. I like to see strength or potential strength setups against BTC. Maker's another one. Don't know why, don't care. Make up whatever narrative you want. Stable coins, yada, yada, yada. This looks like an excellent setup for a move against BTC, edge-to-edge entry coming up here over the next couple days. And this one also has traded very technically and tends to trade decorrelated from the rest of the market from memory. Matic is another one here. So Maker was the 3-day, Matic at the bottom. Still a decent idea and setup. Not a slam dunk idea, but it's there. Algo is another one. Similar vibes where it hasn't quite triggered an entry yet. It's clearly consolidated for months. And when the market gets around to it, right, it'll move. To what degree, I don't know, but I like the setup and I like the potential here, certainly. And across the board, most everything, Curve included, man, did I get a bunch of hate for talking about Curve on April 10th when, nobody was talking about it, nobody cared. Why am I trading Curve? This is why. Same deal. It doesn't matter the chart, doesn't matter what it is. That has completed. Pepe has completed. Most of the meme coin edge-to-edge moves have completed. So when you're looking for fresh stuff, fresh entries, I'd focus on stuff like ENA, CAS, Sol BTC, top of the list, Maker BTC, top of the list. Matic, I probably will leave alone. Algo looks good. Jeff, something to think about. And some ETH beta that hasn't moved yet. Something to think about if you're looking for fresh entries. It just doesn't make sense to me to, start an entry here on Pepe after it's moved. What is it? It's 2x effectively. Wild. In the past couple of days. So that was alts, which is basically leverage. MSTR is leverage. Miners are leverage. All this stuff, if it's not BTC, it's BTC beta. If it's beta, it's probably leverage. If it's leverage, you want it moving 2x BTC. At least you want to get paid for that risk. MSTR, obviously, top of that list of BTC beta, 2x. This chart is at an interesting spot, again, because it's like, is it an entry today, here? I don't think so. It's a little stretched. It's sort of moved in a straight line. Now, I do think it's going higher, potentially a 2x from here. It's not going to go there in a straight line. And, maybe that's enough for some people to say, okay, I like it today, but where were you on MSTR edge trade, right? That would be my rationale here for being angry at anyone who's late, but it looks great. Bullish TK cross, bullish cloud. It's above the pitchfork. Patterns worked out. Channel broke out, right? There's no reason to be bearish here whatsoever on technicals. I just don't know necessarily how quickly it moves up. Now, it did move rather quickly pre and post election. So we'll see if we get some crazy all-time high breach where we go from like 108 to 120 in a week, then of course this is going to do well, right? So it kind of depends on your feelings there, how quickly BTC will continue to move. MSTU is, of course, leverage MSTR. So it's effectively 4x BTC. And this is basically an altcoin. This is basically Pepe. This is basically, right? This is it's all the same. This is also at a bit of an awkward spot in the middle of the cloud here. Lower timeframes look better. Obviously the 4-hour, which is probably where you want to trade it. But I would love to think I'm smart enough to get rid of it at 10 and buy it back at 8. We'll see if we get that. I'm still holding my MSTU for now, but the trade here is potentially still a 2x, right? Again, if BTC breaks all-time high and goes nuts, and we see the flows and we see funding explode, if, then this is going to be great. You're going to look like a genius, right? But if that slows down, you're going to get vol dragged a little bit on stuff like MSTU. This is the one chart that is very curious. This is MSTR against BTC. And in a vacuum, this thing looks like it's ready to explode. This looks like it's ready for infinity, and is probably another reason to just stay long MSTR, because if the MNAV does explode, which it looks like it's trying to against BTC, this is what you want to be in. Would I be max long MSTU? No. Would I be max long MSTR? No. That's just me. But this setup certainly looks like bullish continuation. Now, at some point, Saylor's going to ATM, or someone's going to ATM for him, aka ARB this. I don't know what MNAV people would be crazy enough to try to ARB it again, but at some point, someone's going to step in. For now, let it rip. This looks really good. Technicals for MSTR BTC look very, very good. I was asked to look at a few of these others. Stark, Strife. I don't have any powers here. It's I've nothing technical to say about this. I don't think you're really trading this stuff on technicals anyway. I think dividends are a trap. I think income plays are a trap. That's just me. So I would avoid all this stuff unless you know some deep knowledge about what's going on there. SMLR is another interesting one. Chart looks horrific. Chart looks awful. It has just sold off nonstop, right? There's no cloud reason to buy this. There's no chart pattern reason to buy this. Abysmal. What I do like is this chart, SMLR divided by MSTR. At some point, there's going to be an ARB between the two charts here. Now we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but on a relative value basis, I'm not going to buy a falling knife. But if this turns out to be a falling wedge, bull div, making new all-time lows, that's something to sort of pay attention to. We're not quite there yet. It's early, and this could just keep falling forever, right? I don't know. But if this starts to turn around or starts to look bad enough to buy, and it's getting there, it's certainly getting there, then I like this setup, but definitely one to keep an eye on. GME, of course, a Bitcoin company, allegedly here, is coming up. Some rumors that they've already bought based on some wallet analysis. Technicals here honestly don't look terrible. Clearly, we're not above the weekly cloud. We're consolidating here. The last breakout on this multi-year falling wedge failed. Just didn't really go anywhere. So I like this better above 30. You could probably argue like Eve Atom or something above 30. But would I rather trade an altcoin? I would. I don't see a reason to try to trade GME. On the daily, if you get a daily cloud breakout, it's good enough for me, so if that happens, great. But I would just rather trade any other altcoin than worry about GME nonsense. I just couldn't care less. The technicals are flipping, decently bullish there on the daily. MetaPlanet setting up for another Adam and Eve here on the daily. Bullish TK cross coming up, bullish cloud coming up. This looks like bullish continuation. There's some idiosyncratic stuff here with taxes in Japan and access. Why are people trading this in Japan? Is it tax advantaged? Is that tax advantage going away? Just things to think about when you're blindly trading some of this stuff. Setup wise, phenomenal. Looks great. Looks ready for highs. Looks ready for bullish continuation. Tesla, another Bitcoin balance sheet company, also had an edge-to-edge trigger last week. This is a double bottom. This is a just vanilla edge-to-edge, right? Like there's no secrets here. Bullish TK cross pricing cloud. There's your level, 350, 60, something like that. It's not for me. I'd rather just trade alts. Again, like what do I care? If alts are moving, if crypto's moving, what does legacy matter? The percentages here, who cares? For some people, I know they have certain piles of money in certain places where they can't trade everything. But if you have the ability to trade everything, maybe you like this, maybe you don't. But technicals for this look great. They look like crypto, effectively, regardless of what's going on with the company. And the dumpster fire there, chart looks great. SEP, this looks like Head and Shoulders. I don't know. I have nothing to say about this. This has gone to infinity quickly. It's just a massive avoid for me. I don't even care. It's a lottery ticket. Just kind of trading like euphoria. ASST, another one of these Bitcoin balance sheet companies, it hit its weekly edge to edge last week. What else is there left here? I don't know. I got nothing for you. No TA, no setups, no nothing. Miners, on the other hand, starting to get there, right? Maybe they need another week. Maybe they need another 2 weeks. Maybe you get a bullish TK cross here. Maybe you get a trigger with an edge to edge in the cloud. Maybe you get a move from 15 to 22. And WGMI, some of these miners individually, Wolf I looked at maybe has the potential for a 2x. Some of these look better than others. Some people are very specific about which miners they like and don't like, but broadly as a group, I would look for this setup across the board for miners. Looks decently ready. Coin is another one. Looks phenomenal. And if you're bullish total 2, if you're bullish alts, Coin follows or has followed total 2 since the IPO. Another edge-to-edge setup. So there's no dearth of setups and things to do. And gold I would avoid just because it looks done. You know, I had a great run. It's moved up a lot. You've got a lot of media coming out there saying how great of an idea gold is because of uncertainty. I'm not going to disagree in the long term, but it just looks done. Sub 3,000, I like it a lot more. But up here, doesn't make a lot of sense. It's gone up very quickly for any asset, but especially gold and the technicals in a vacuum. Certainly very late on weekly and daily timeframes. And lastly, ES above the cloud, bullish TK cross, a wild journey it has been on ES. And if this pulls back or continues or whatever, it certainly looks a lot more bullish than it has for the past couple weeks. It's got patterns on its side. It's got some fundamental nonsense with trade on its side. So it would be hilarious if this eventually goes to all-time highs this year, just because everybody is ultra doomer and they have good reasons to be doomer. But it would just be funny if we see bullish continuation here. So tons of setups, tons of stuff to do. And if you're a long-term holder, there's really nothing to do, nothing to worry about. Plenty of room for upside. That's all I got for this one. Give me a like, give me a dislike, give me a comment, subscribe, check out the Kraken Pro link in the description of this video, and happy trading.